That's what I want.
This meeting is being recorded.
You all hear that? You're all now being recorded. Welcome. Hope your summer's been going well. And hopefully we will get some, you'll get some ideas of what you're supposed to be doing with the eBird. If I look a little weird, I don't know if you can see it. I had my eyes dilated about 3 hours ago, so I can't see anything anyway. So this should be really interesting. So the first thing before we get started, I want to ask is, how many of you are already have accounts? Okay, you can either raise your hand, or Dean and Lori want to kind of tell me whether you all have, you can say something. Sharon. Oh, Sharon, you're in here twice now. How exciting. Can you hear me, Sharon? You'll have to unmute yourself to tell me. Okay, so Bo does, Dean, Ron, I know Ron does.
Yes.
Bennett, do you? And I know actually Lori and Dean do. Okay. All right. The reason I asked that is so I want to know whether I really need to go back and explain in detail how to sign up. Does everybody feel pretty comfortable with that? Yes, no, maybe. Okay, so you all have accounts. All right. All right, so the first thing I'm gonna do a little sharing here. And share. And I've got a little bit of a PowerPoint. This is not all, this is going to be live. We're gonna, I'll be working with but I want to go over a couple of things first. Oops, we don't want to start there. Let's go back. Start at the beginning. All right. So eBird basics, that's what we're doing here. And these are just a couple of things you have to remember before we get started and when you're thinking about eBird. The biggest problem, especially newbies have with eBird, is they think it's an identification tool, and it is not. It is only a tool that, well, it basically the original, I shouldn't say that. It's not an identification tool, because next week, we'll actually talk about how you can use it as an identification tool. But the app itself is not an identification tool. The website can help you identify things. But essentially, this started back in the early 2000s it's a database for researchers, actually, is how it started. And all the things that we as non-researchers use it for are kind of sidelines, and they've how do you want to say, it was kind of a enticement for us to use it as citizen scientists or citizen community scientists, whichever you want to call it. That we would feed them data. Okay, so it is basically a database. That is the essence of eBird, is a database. All the other stuff they've added to it have been kind of like icing on the cake. So we're using eBird to supply data to scientists and conservationists and so forth and on, so that they can use that data to help understand how birds are distributed across the country, or around the world now, because it's international. And it also will help them make decisions about how things move around the world, not just where they are, but how things move, populations and stuff like that. And they're constantly adding new things. And I was just reading about a new ways that they're showing us exotic species in the area, but that's not for today. So that's the first and foremost thing. This is really it's a database. It's not an identification tool. Merlin is the identification tool that goes with this. And that's what we'll talk about next week and the week after. The next thing, which is what's really confusing, any if you put if you have eBird on your phone or the app, and you submit a checklist from your phone, all that data automatically goes to eBird. Okay, so everything goes from the phone to eBird. However, people have said, I don't see the checklist, like after I share a checklist after a bird walk. And some people have said to me, I don't see my checklist. I don't see that checklist on my eBird app. Well, that's because it's not there. Basically, the eBird app only goes from the phone to eBird. What is on everything, all this shared stuff and all that, is out on the web, and it's all in the database, but you don't see it all at the app. And I'll show you how that works when we actually go into the live things. So the checklists that somebody shares with you will not show up on your phone, but it will show up on the website. But the checklist itself, the numbers, like if you see a new bird, a life bird or something like that, that actually will show up on in eBird on your app, but I'll show you where that is. That's not quite the same thing. So that's the second thing to remember, that it's not an identification, and it only goes from your app, from your phone, to the database. Or if you're like me, I also have it on my iPad, and sometimes I enter into the iPad. So I have checklists on my iPad, and I have checklists on my phone. They're not the same, but they're all out on the web. They've all gone to eBird, and they're all tallied. Does that make sense? Yes, no, maybe. Feel free to jump in and ask questions anytime. You don't have to wait until I'm done. Just interrupt me. The next thing is, remember your username. Okay, I've had more people say, oh yeah, I'm on eBird, and I'll say, what is your username, so I can share with you? And 9 times out of 10, somebody will say, I have no idea what it is. They've logged in once, and heaven only knows. Yeah. Try and remember your username. It makes it a lot easier when we share stuff. So remember your username. You don't have to tell me your password. Just remember your username, and I'll show you. If you have forgotten what that is, I can show you where to look for that. All right. So that's basically the basics of what I wanted to share with you. And now I have to find out what happened to my website. Where's the website? Okay. Oh, there it is. Okie dokie. We don't want that, and we don't want that. I need this over here. Okay, that's not what I want. Excuse me. All right. So here we are. All right, so now we go live. And again, ask questions, interrupt me as we're going along. Don't put stuff in the chat, because I can't see that right at all. So you'll have to use your microphone, unmute yourself, and just kind of barge in. All right, so eBird, the main thrush of the main database is accessed through the web page. So you have eBird, and that's where you really need to set up your account if you haven't set up one. And you would just do that up in the corner here, where it says, well, it would say, if you're not logged in, it will say log in here, and you create your account, and then you're ready to go. So from here, let's take a quick little look at just kind of an overview what you've got on each of the places. And we're going to only kind of look and talk about how things get, how we submit, what kinds of things to do. A lot of the other bells and whistles that are out on the web page we'll talk about next week, because that's where we get into the identification and what's out there and how to use it for finding birds and stuff like that. But basically, there's your submit button, which is the same as the submit button down here at the bottom. Pardon that little thing that'll pop up every once in a while when I put my mouse over the phone. That's for a different reason. But anyway, there's your So these two are the same thing, all right? What you're probably most interested in is this is your My eBird, okay? So on the website here, right here, is your, right under your picture or your whatever icon is there, is your username. So if you've logged into if you can get logged into either your the app, well, obviously you're logged into the app if you're using it, but if you, that's where your name is. And on the app, it's actually over here under settings. I just clicked on the three dots at the bottom, bottom right corner. I can't point to that, unfortunately. And then if you go to the settings, there's my account name again. Okay, so that's my eBird account.
Judy, it also looks like it's in the top right of the basic page there, just to the right of the donate button. Yeah.
Yeah, where you logged in, next to the donate button. Both places. Yes, you're right. Like I said, can't read very well at the moment. Okay, let me go back out. We'll go done out of that. And I'll go back over to submit, put that there. So this tells you how many birds you've seen. It has all your checklists and stuff like that. We'll come back and look a little more deeply into this. Let's kind of look at the submit. So those are the two main places. Submit here looks a whole lot or very similar to the submit on the come on. Oh no, actually, before we do that, I don't want to do that. Let me yeah, before we do that, one thing with the app is you need to think about, because eBird, the database, the whole database and everything is how many, oh, it has over 10,000 birds listed in it. And you certainly don't, you're not going to get all those on your page, and you don't want them all. It'd be like walking around with a multi-volume ID kind of book. So under that more, again, you see at the top something called packets or packs. And this is also true in Merlin. It gets a little more confusing in Merlin than it is here. But basically what this does, this would be like what it is, it gives you a just the birds. These are just the birds for, in this case for me, North Carolina, South Carolina. Notice Tennessee. Well, these are what they're suggesting. Tennessee, these are my local, you know, basically the states right around me. But if I look at all, I will do this many times during this program. I can't click with my mouse. I click with my finger. But see here, all the different packets that you go. So if you're going to Algeria, okay, you can download the Algeria. When we went to Panama, we downloaded the Panama, and you can see that I have that. Where's my, come on, install. This will take me a while. So here are all the ones I have installed. So here's my Panama. There's Costa Rica, because I went to Costa Rica a year ago. And then I traveled in Maryland. I travel in Florida fairly often. So I have downloaded all of these, which makes it a little bit easier. And unfortunately, you have to do it state by state. You can't do just the United States, which is frustrating. Or you can't do Southeast, or you can't do, you know, Northwest or something like that. So you need to kind of think ahead of time. If you're going to be traveling and want to use eBird, you need to remember to download the app. I mean, download the packs for the areas that you're going to be in. Does that make sense? Say yes, no, just nod or something. Okay, so that's a little bit different than the web page. All right, but once you do a submit, or you start, and here you would go to submit up here. Here you just click on the start. Now, what's nice with the start now, you automatically get your list of birds. All right, and notice it says up here, likely species based on 250. If you're doing it through the website, you're going to have to decide where you are. Okay. Let me see if I can do this so I can see. Oh, I can see now. Can you all see that better?
Yes.
Okay. I can. So these are all places, and I have a lot of places that I have. So if I were to start, put in, let's see, if I clicked here and I start typing, if you have if it's a one that you've used a lot, let's see, FARM. So there's my farm gate. Well, since that's where I am at the moment, I'll use that. So this is my house. That's what I named it. You can also find it on a map. So you would enter a region. So I would say North Carolina, or I'd say one thing with eBird is they go by, not by cities or anything like that, it's by counties. So I would need to put in Mecklenburg County, Mecklenburg, or whatever county I think is there. I don't want to, and there it shows all the hot spots. Now, if it's not a hot spot, you need to not yet. Wow. Back to Mecklenburg. If it's not a hot spot, let's say it was somewhere out here, and I can zoom in. All right. And let's say I saw something at the corner of Monroe, and actually I did at one point. I can, Monroe and Sharon Amity, I can click here. And it wants me to go in further. Oops, wrong one. So say here, it'll bring up a green thing. You'll give it a name. Excuse me again. Give it a name, and then you're ready to, and it will then, that will be your personal your personal spot. It's not a hot spot. Nobody else can use it. Only you can use it. Hot spots. Let me go back. Back to one. Hot spots are ones that everybody can use. It's like here's but your locations, anything you put in. Yeah, let's go back to that. Come on. Oh, I know why it doesn't like this. Oh, Safari, don't give me a hard time. It's the only bad thing about doing things live. Mecklenburg, and I will blow this up. Okay, folks, what was I talking about? Okay, so all of these little blue things are personal spots. All of these red ones are the hot spots, and you can use any of those. And you're encouraged to use the hot spot so that all that data gets put in about that particular spot. And that gets, so you really do want to try to use a hot spot and get as close to where you saw the bird. But, you know, we see birds on the road and at your house and so forth and so on. So this, let's see. Where there, me. Okay, so this here, if I click on this, it's going to say farm cake. I can click on that because it's me, but you wouldn't be able to click on it. See if this one. Well, I guess I could. No, that's me too. I've done that one too, but anyway. I guess this is just showing my hotspots.
That would make sense that we.
Yeah, that's right. It's only showing mine. Okay. Now, when you go over here, well, we'll get to that. Well, yeah, I guess we'll have here. It does dump you automatically into the list on the app. But at some point you're going to be asked to actually identify where you are. And you can do that up here, okay, where my mouse is. And now what happens is it will bring up other places as well. Let's see if I can't go out.
And that's on the app. That's not on the website.
That's right. That's on the web, and it will give you, see how it gives me locations.
It's nice.
So it's giving me, well, no, these are all mine too. So it's not giving me anybody else's. Okay. Okay. So it will only give, it used to give everybody's, but now it doesn't. So it will give you your places you have. If you want to create a new place, it will ask you that too when you get there. And see, here's my, if I do recent, these are some recent ones that I've done.
But it should show all the hotspots, the red ones. Yes.
Yeah, it will show all the red ones. And I'm just, it's really zeroing in on me because I am here. But if I were kind of out, if I were somewhere that I had not put in a local spot, it would show me the closest I don't want to say hotspot. Does that make sense?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, you know, what you want to do is just kind of look down. If it doesn't make sense, just scroll down and see what else is there. And I've at times changed, you know, they give me one, sometimes they'll just give you the coordinates, but if you scroll down, you'll see a hotspot. And if you're near that hotspot, you probably want to use that instead. Okay.
Could you define near? What do you mean by near? A mile, 2 miles, 500?
Oh, no, it won't be that far. It's probably half a mile.
Okay.
It will. It keeps you pretty close because if you don't want to be that far from the hotspot, if you're more, I would say if you're more than a mile from the hotspot, I would go ahead and just create a use the coordinates that they're giving you, particularly if it's a what we call an incidental. We'll talk about that in a minute. It's not that you're actually bird watching, or let's say you're downtown, you see the peregrine falcon, okay, and you're having lunch somewhere. So you would say you were there, you saw it there, and you would use those coordinates, even though there might be a hot spot somewhere within a mile. And then you would name it whatever restaurant you're at or whatever. So a lot of times, a lot of these blue things that you see on here for me are what I call incidentals, except for my neighborhood and the university. They are things that I have seen while I've been driving, or I've been, you know, in a parking lot, you know, coming in and out of Target or something like that. So that's what the blue things are, and most of them are incidentals.
Judy?
Yes.
I was interrupted temporarily, and I missed part of what you were talking about getting the hot spots. But if you want to find, let's say you're going to be traveling today, and you know you're going to be in Wilkes County, not where you are now, but where you're going. Can you look? How do you define where a hot spot is in maybe an area where you're not?
Okay, so if you're there, okay, and you see a bird, you can go ahead and start to submit a submit a list, right? And it will then bring these up for you. Remember, going back to here, it will, you can either identify your spot here, or you can identify it when you do the review. Okay. And I'll show you that too. But
Well, I think I missed something because what, two things. One, I'm saying if I'm in Charlotte, but I know I'm going to be going to North Wilkesboro.
that's a different question. Okay. That actually comes over here. You would go in here. You would go into explore and let me see, let me see if I can, checklist and probably, but I need to get out of here. So let me.
Well, while you're digging for that, the other thing is that I looked at my eBird and I have the things that I put in there, birds I saw back in January in Huntington Beach. And I don't, they never have posted. They're still stuck in some sort of limbo. So, you know, apparently I don't think they ever went in. I don't know what I did wrong about trying to submit my.
Okay, where did you, were you using the web page or were you using the app?
The phone app.
Okay, so you can come over here to checklists, right? And if you click on up here where it says not submitted, and you'll see that in a second. Come on, I'm not dead. There we go. It could be sitting right there.
That's where it is.
Hopefully that's where it is.
Yeah, I'm seeing Huntington Beach, April 23rd, 2022, 2 species to report.
Okay, so what you need to do now is go and click on that, whatever that is, and then finish out submitting. What you forgot to do probably is the review and to add all this information. So the next, so after you put your birds in, I don't have any birds in there, you would click the location again. It will then list your location. Hopefully it'll still remember that you were in Huntington Beach, but more than likely it will, because it has the date in there. You choose where you choose whichever one. So I'll choose here. I'll choose, excuse that, but my farm gate. Then I'll say done. Make sure you say use it, click the use this location. So there's double click there. And then you would go ahead and submit. I'm not going to do that because Kent will get mad at me if I put something in without any birds on it. But that's what you would do. And that's probably what happened is it just didn't get, it didn't get into, it didn't get, for whatever reason, didn't get submitted. And I've done that before where you forget and you don't quite complete what you were supposed to do.
Judy, this is right on this subject. I've got a bunch that are not submitted that I don't want submitted. But
just go.
Yeah. And I want to get rid of it, but
here, so you see this bottom one? Okay.
Yep.
I'm going to swipe my
okay.
finger to the left and say delete.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah, these are used to, a lot of this is it's not obvious sometimes what that is.
Thank you.
Okay, so where were we? Back to submit. Let's go back over here. Okay, so I'm gonna, so if you do your farm gate, we'll come over. We'll also check on this one. We'll go back to that. So here we have the next thing on the web page. Excuse this. I don't have this all the way open. You would say continue once you identify where you want to go. This is going to be annoying. Sorry. I'm not sure why that's bringing that up. So then, of course, what's nice with the app, it automatically knows what day it is and it's giving you the time. So you could, like if you keep a paper list, you probably need to remember to put, on your paper list, what time you started at least and what time you think you've ended, and also your date. So if we were doing the same thing here, we would do today's date And we would say, now let's talk a little bit, because this asks you on both the app and the webpage, what these different kinds of observations are. So a traveling observation is basically when you're out walking, okay, and you're moving more than, I would say, 200 feet. So you're walking down a trail, you're walking in the neighborhood, you're out and about, and your main and you are most likely one of your primary objectives is to look, listen, and see birds. So that's what you would use for traveling. The stationary is more than like you're sitting at your house, you're watching a bird feeder. That would be stationary. So you're not really moving any place. The other thing, there's some gray area, and I've not really gotten good feedback on when you're gardening. Some folks say you should use that as an incidental, and you hear birds. Other people say no, use it as stationary, because if you're listening for and watching, while you're gardening for an extended period of time, then that you're basically within a very small area, and that would be considered stationary. Not, but if you're, 3 acres is probably not stationary. 1/4 of an acre is stationary. Your backyard is, a small backyard is stationary. The other one is we do a big sit out at Cowan's Ford, and we basically sit in one spot and the birds go by us. That's another type of stationary. You're just, just kind of watching, hawk watching. You're watching, just not moving. Let's put it that way. At this point, I'm not going to go much into historical. If you want to get into that, I'll go back and I'll talk to you more individually about that. That's for some of you who have been birding for a long time and you're trying to get the information in, and there's a number of different ways to get that information in, and that's another whole webinar. The incidental is like what I was talking about earlier, is I've gone shopping at Target, and a red-shouldered hawk comes by, and particularly, or actually I remember one, I was on Sharon Amity and Harris Boulevard, and a bald eagle flew over. Now that's a pretty impressive, how do you want to say, spot. I mean, that's not a place where that bird should normally be, et cetera, et cetera. So that's an incidental for me. I had another one was, I had a bunch of cormorants flying over when I was driving down 485. Saw an inhingal when I was driving down 485. Those are kind of things that you're not birding necessarily. But it's an important spot. Let's put it that way. It's an unusual bird. I wouldn't do that if for every cardinal that flies by my car, or that I see in the Target parking lot, or, Harris Teeter or wherever. So that's an incidental. So if it seems to be, I don't want to say out of place, but unusual for where it is. So that's what that is. So we'll say in this case, we're doing stationary. I've been watching I have a butterfly bush right outside my window here. And there have been a ton of it's actually a baby cardinal or juvenile cardinal bush, because that's right about between 5 and 7. I have about a dozen cardinals that come in and preen and do nothing. So then you put your time. So we could say, I'd say we started that. And make sure you put the PM. Duration on the app. It's a nice thing about the app. It will tell you how long you're going to be. I don't know. I'll put in 30 minutes here. Party. Now, when we do a bird walk, if you are doing your own list, and you don't want me to share that list with you, please tell me, because then I will take you off the party size. eBird, when we're in a group and birding, eBird would rather have only one person submit the list and have the number of people there. It would be better for you, for me to keep track of everything. I can share the list with you, and if you didn't see the bird, you can take it off. You can remove it from your list. So it'd be easier that way, and eBird would prefer that than for you to submit a list at the same time that I'm submitting a list. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. So that's when you party size. And right now I'll just say one, since it's only me, and then you would go ahead and then you get the list. I don't know what it's doing that for you. I hope we don't have anybody choking back there. I can hear them. All right. So the next issue here is how are you counting the birds? All right, if you've been out on walks with me, I will go, you'll sometimes, red-shouldered hawks are a good one, red-shouldered hawks in particular. We may see through a course of a 3-hour walk, the red-shouldered hawk 3 or 4 times. And even within, like McAlpine in particular, I think of this. We might see it when we first get there in the parking lot, and then see it again down by the pond, and maybe down in the backwoods, and then we'll see it out in the field again. We'll see one. That's not 4 birds. That's probably only 1 bird, maybe 2, depending upon what I'm hearing as well. So you don't count. How do I want to say? It's like when you're watching your feeder, you don't count a chickadee comes in, chickadee leaves. That's 1 chickadee. 5 minutes later, chickadee comes in and leaves. That's still only 1 chickadee, because you don't know if that's a different chickadee or it's the same one. Does that make sense?
Yes.
No. Yes. No.
Yes.
Now, for cardinals, if you see a male come in, male leave, female come in, female leave, you can count that twice for 2. Not if you're doing feeder watch, but for eBird itself, you can do that. You can count that as 2, because those are different individuals. So sometimes you'll say, oh, we saw lots of red-shouldered hawks, but we may have only been seeing 1 or 2 instead of 15. So what you want to do is try to get a feel for, one, as you're walking, how far apart a bird is. Carolina wrens are a good one too, because you'll find a Carolina wren here, and then if you go only about 10-15 feet and you see another one, well, it's more than likely the same one. But if you go 50 feet, it probably is a different one. Or if you hear several of them at the same time. That can be several birds. So when you see counts from me, you may say, I thought we saw more than that, or didn't know we heard that many, or saw that many. So it can be either seen, definitely if you see it, and then hearing, if you're comfortable and you're certain that's what you're hearing. Then you can count it, because eBird essentially wants to know what birds are there. And if we know that Carolina wren is there, whether we saw it or not, we can tell that by the sound. Now, we will talk a little bit more about this later, but do not rely solely on Merlin for sound. It's a great verification, etc., but you can get yourself into a lot of trouble with Merlin. And there's been a couple of some talk on other listservs about folks who have been reporting really weird birds because Merlin has said it was, they never saw the bird. Merlin said it was a three-toed fish eater, or whatever, some weird bird. So there have been, now that will probably very quickly taken off of your list, but be very careful. If you think it might be, well, and another example is I was down at PD. I was hearing a bird and I was pretty sure I knew what it was, but I did use Merlin to verify, to see if what it suggested, let's put it that way. It's kind of like going into a book. Okay, what do you suggest? Let me look. Or when you send me a picture and you say, what do you think this is? So I played, and I'm in the middle of a pine forest at PD National Wildlife Refuge. And the next thing I know, it's telling me that the bird is a yellowlegs, which is a shorebird, never to be found in the middle of a pine woods. So be very careful with Merlin and sound. And, to be on the safe side, if you're not sure what the bird is, don't put it in. I mean, it's not going to be the end of the world if you don't get every bird that you pass by. And again, going in by, you can say, where's my, I'm going to go down to my cardinals and just here we go. So I have 5 cardinals here. Now I can add details and you can do that here too. Let me go over here and let's find the cardinals. Let's say 5. So there's my cardinals. Okay, so here are a couple of other things. We'll talk about the breeding stuff later, but you could say if you just saw, 2 males and 2 females, you can put that in here. You can say, okay, I saw 2 adult males, 2 adult females, and 1, well, that would be hard to do that with that, and maybe a juvenile, sex unknown kind of thing. So if you want to do that, you don't have to. Don't feel like you have to do that. But sometimes if I think it's important enough, I will put that in if it's kind of unusual. So there's my 5 cardinals. I'm done here. Put my 5 cardinals here. You also let's see. If you click on that, you can't put how many males, females, but you can put a breeding code, and we'll talk about that next week. We'll go back to that in the breeding bird survey. Okay, we're running out of time. So we're done there. Okay, so then in the app, you wind up hitting review. And again, here's your time. Okay, here, what you do want to do, unless it's a incidental, if it's an incidental, it'll automatically say no. But you do want to say, yes, this is all the only birds I actually saw. And I can hit done, and it's off and running. Make sense? Questions,
Yes.
comments? Pretty simple, but yeah, in counting, don't worry if you're lowballing. So sometimes it's easy to say, yes, I saw 1 blue, 1 red-shouldered hawk or 1 hawk. Some birds, easy to say 1 bird or 2 birds. Others, like Carolina wrens, because you're hearing them and seeing them throughout the walk. Kind of, if you lost track, keep a general estimate. Usually when I do a walk, it's kind of like I visualize afterwards where we were, and I can kind of space out how many Carolina wrens we've heard. I heard it here, heard here, here. Or saw them here, and here. of course, then there's the geese at McAlpine, and they just don't stand still long enough for you to count. Again, ballpark. If you go to the coast and you see a couple of thousand birds, again, the ballpark. If it's really, especially on the app, let's see, I have another checklist in there. Oh, no, I didn't. If I were to, let's go back over here to submit and hit add, and I would say, let's see, where's one that would be one? Okay, here, let's say I saw 15. Where I can't see it, sorry. 25 barred owls in my yard. Say done. Notice what happens. It doesn't like that. And what that is it says, please add comments for this observation. Your count of this species is higher than expected for this location. Nice find. Please add comments. Okay. So you may get this. I know when we are on, especially I should point out here, I can also swipe to the right or to the left, and I can clear that data. When we do Lake Norman, when we go out on Lake Norman on the boat, especially in the spring and summer, we put in like 35, we can get up to about between close to 30. I think our highest count was like 35 osprey. Of course, that little icon comes up every time because the icon is, or the numbers are for the county, not necessarily just for that spot. And to see 30 osprey elsewhere in the county would be very unusual. We just go ahead and then say, we know that this is an honest count. And then we'll say, in the case when we first started doing this, because now they see that coming from us every time, they don't, they still flag it, but they don't, get mad. They don't come back. Kent doesn't send us an email and say what's going on there. But it will say, we saw, in this case, if we saw, 12 nests, 2 or 3 birds on each nest, kind of thing. So we give some kind of explanation for that. That will be true. And you may get a rare bird or an unusual bird, and don't, and it'll say, and you'll get a letter from Kent or a little email from Kent saying, this is an unusual bird, blah, blah, blah. Don't be offended by that. Just say, okay, either if you have a picture or if you have questions, say, well, that's what I thought it was. This is what I saw. Kent can help you. We've actually had submitted pictures of birds. And one in particular was sent in as a Savannah sparrow, and it turned out to be a Henslow sparrow because of the picture. And Kent caught that and said, you had a very rare bird there. So, don't Kent just really very nice. He's not, some people call him the eBird Nazi, but that's not what he is. He really is there to help you and to help the database stay pretty clean.
Is that person based at Cornell?
No, he's actually based in he's in Raleigh.
Oh.
I think he's in Raleigh. He's either in Raleigh or Greensboro.
But his purview is just North Carolina, or more than
Yes. Actually, he's probably the Piedmont. I think so. I think there's somebody else from the mountains and somebody for the, they actually have three folks.
Do they ever throw anybody's eBird account out if they send a bunch of gibberish data frequently?
Let's see, I'm trying to remember. I used to review for the backyard bird count, and we don't throw it out. but we suppress, it gets suppressed. Does that make sense? So it doesn't necessarily, if somebody's doing research, it doesn't show up there, and it doesn't show up in in the webs. It doesn't show up in the website or as part of the list for a particular county or anything like that. They do suppress it, and it kind of goes away.
When I've traveled before, I've gotten an email from someone else in another part of the country that's also monitoring lists.
Mhm.
I've had that happen a couple of times, and then I usually add my pictures to justify what I have. But yeah, there are people all over the country that do what Kent's doing.
Yeah, and there's some place, I mean, that happens to me fairly regularly when I travel. And partly there, and just not to brag or anything, they don't know me. And when I put something in that's kind of unusual, and sometimes I'm wrong, I thought, well, that's what I thought it was. This is what it looked like, even though I, usually put something in. I had an example of that was I was in Washington State, and I submitted some redhead ducks at a spot, and the guy came back, and I said, well, I mean, I described the bird to him, and they said, yeah. And he said, but they're not ocean birds. And I said, well, I didn't see it on the ocean. I saw it on a lake, on a pond. And I said, there's a pond. And I literally sent him a picture of a picture of the area and showed him the pond. He said, oh, I forgot that was there. And so in that case, he said, thanks, we appreciate that. So they're not out to make, people, make you feel bad. They're there to help you and to help maintain the database. What I don't like is I got an email. I'm not sure if I responded to it about a sighting from 5 years ago, and that I don't like. Anyway,
this probably underscores the fact that whenever you travel anywhere interesting, you should take a photographer with you.
Or take your camera with you. Take a camera with you. And even blurry pictures can help. I had somebody just send me a picture today. She was having trouble. She found some small white heron egret type bird by a pond, and she didn't know there was anyway. So I looked at even a fuzzy one. I'm pretty sure it was a little blue, an immature little blue, and not a snowy. So even if you put in a really blurry picture, they can usually tell what it is. So don't feel bad about that. Okay, so let's see, we'll stop this. Oh wait, one thing I should mention to you. Oh, I got to do that this way. No, I don't want to stop tracking. You do have a choice when you start, whether you want them to track you or not. And you don't have to have it track you. It does help in maintaining how far you've gone. Otherwise, you need to figure out how far you went. So you would need to use, something else on your phone to determine how far you went. They're not tracking you in real. I mean, they're tracking you, but they're not coming back to see where you were. And it does help them a little bit. Although what I have found with the tracking, it's not. They say they're using the GPS, but it seems like they don't correspond with my app, my health app, my walking app. They don't seem to jive. And if you ever look at those maps, which let's see if I can, let me bring one up. Let's go back here. Page. What happened here? What is going on? Oh, I know what's going on. Maybe I need to go this way. Come on. There we go. If you look here and look at a checklist, let's see. Lake Norman, there's our Lake Norman. There's our our map for like, you know, when we are out on a lake. So that's the boat. Although it's interesting, the boat stopped over there. We actually stopped back here. I don't know why. That's Governor's Island. But anyway, that's the track of the boat that we did. So it is kind of nice to see where you are, where you've been, and see what was going on. Let me go back over here to the lists again. Let's look at those checklists on eBird and show you. And these are the ones I submitted. And I'm going to check my checklist here. That says I have 2,000. It doesn't. I thought that gave me a number here on how many checklists I turned in, but it does down here. Yeah. So notice it says over here that I only have 1,000, a little over 1,000. Here I've got 2,500. So you can see the difference, that we've submitted 1,000, almost 1,100 checklists from my app. And so 1,100 or 1,000 of that 2,500 are from my app. So I can, let's go back. If I do, here's the Amazon warehouse, there's the Amazon warehouse here. But notice if I go down and I go to the middle of June, okay. Now there's one that says Canopy Tower, but that's because when I started by myself for whatever reason. But notice I have all of these from the middle of June, from June 15th to June 23rd, which was our Panama trip. These were shared with me from our guide shared these with us. They're not in the app. Okay, so that's what I was saying. Everything is on the web page. Not everything is necessarily on your app. Now, if you only use the app, then everything is on the app. But if you have people sharing with you, those shared checklists won't be on the app. That makes sense? All right. Where am I? Done. Back over here. Okay, so that's pretty much the kind of basic questions. Did I not cover something that you're just burning questions or anything like that? Was this helpful?
Yes.
Very helpful.
Yes.
Okay. I'm trying to think if there's, let me look at my notes here.
Well,
Okay.
I actually have had the opportunity to go back and change my things based on Kent's, reaction.
Yeah.
So I find it very helpful because I'm new to North Carolina and I'm much more familiar with New Jersey and what's available there and what's not. So.
Mhm. Yeah, and like I said, Kent is pretty big. I say entering species data, look at the app settings, packets, tours. I'm just trying to figure out what I was, okay, I think I've got everything else there. Yeah. And then next week, what we'll do is we're going to take a much deeper dive into this piece and what's out here, because there is so much things. There are things here on the website and a little bit on the web, on the app as well, but primarily on the website that can help you go ahead and identify and also do those location stuff, because that's where you can determine what is out, what's might be available in your area, and so forth and so on. So that's where using the web page really comes in handy. Like I said, the app itself is primarily to go from the gather information to send to the website, to the database. So we'll go back and look at the Explore down here. We're going to look Explore here. We're going to look at Because once you click on this, there's a whole bunch of different things. You can actually set up alerts to let you know when stuff that you want in Mecklenburg County shows up that you haven't seen. Hotspots, where all hotspots, the bar charts. And there's millions, literally millions of photos in here that can help you with identification. So let me stop sharing, unless anybody has any other questions before I stop sharing. Okay, so hopefully I will get you the right link next week. I feel really bad that that got screwed up and that was different than what it was before. And I didn't do that ahead of time. Again, any questions, comments?
Just a comment. I'm obviously.
I didn't think you were supposed to be here today. No,
I know. I thought it was. I read the email wrong. I thought you said it was tomorrow. I thought you said it was tomorrow night. But I guess you said that. But anyway, I'm here.
I may have said that.
But yes, I just wanted to say, Judy, I'm that person that Judy said was trying to identify something, and I really appreciate her.
I didn't send you that part of the email. I'm pretty sure, for me, and I don't know whether Ron will agree with me or not, that the shape, the way the bird is standing and the way the beak is, it looks to me more like a little blue.
Yeah, well,
the other piece is that if you were there 2 or 3, a couple of hours before, and then you went back with your husband, you could be actually seeing 2 different birds.
Exactly. So I have to keep going back. That's the
right.
fun part. That's the fun part. But just an anecdote about, I'm obviously here because I don't know much about eBird and I have hardly put anything in it, but I did use it when I visited my son and daughter-in-law in Decatur, Georgia. I was watching a bird on her finch feeder and I kept looking at it like, what is that? It's not a finch. And I didn't have my binoculars with me. I actually was using my granddaughter's binoculars, so you can tell the quality of that. But I kept looking at it and it was kind of upside down. It's like, it's not a nuthatch. And I went to eBird and looked at lists of what people had submitted in the Decatur area. And I go, no. It's like pine siskin. It's
really?
Pine siskin. And I had not seen. Why, being from New Jersey, you don't see them very often, you don't see them up there. I know they're much more common down here, and it was a pine siskin.
Oh, no, they're not.
And so I go back and I'm looking, I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah, I see yellow, So
I should ask, when was this?
She was 3 years old. She's turning 8 5 years ago.
Oh, okay. 5, and what time of the year?
March.
Okay. All right, we'll take it. But this time of the year in Decatur, there should not be a pine siskin.
Oh, no. It was not summer. I am pretty sure it was because I was there on St. Patrick's Day. So that's why I happen to actually remember the date. I'm not that good at my birding. But yeah, it was fascinating, and I was very frustrated because I'm walking and seeing all these what I thought were flycatchers, and I never did identify them because I didn't bring my binoculars. That's how I said I'm never going anywhere again without my binoculars.
Okay. All righty. So hopefully I'll see some of you again next week, and hopefully we'll have a few more bodies.
Judy,
yeah.
There's one other really important aspect of the tracking. If you walk more than 3 or 4 miles, you're allowed to have ice cream for dessert.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Or something similar to that, right?
There you go.
And actually with the tracking, we'll talk a little bit about this probably in the 3rd week when we're talking about Merlin and the bird atlas. They would prefer. Speaking of tracking, that actually is something. It's interesting because they want you to. If any of you have been to 6 Mile, okay, been down to 6 Mile, you basically walk a mile out and you walk a mile back. They only want you to report that as 1 mile. And although their track will give you 2 miles. Okay, which I kind of think, but they want that reported actually as 1 mile. Because you are really, it's the same area that you're looking at. So, and also you shouldn't count, let's say going out, you count everything, and coming back, you basically count only things that are new, if that makes sense. Or if you know that there are more, like I walk Toby Creek at the university. It's 1 mile and almost 2 miles. So I go out and coming back, and when I come back, because it's 40 minutes later, you actually may see different birds. Because other birds, some birds have left or not left or just quieted down. The other ones have gotten noisy or whatever. Or fly over and stuff like that. So you try not to double count coming back. So if I had 7 Carolina wrens going out and I had 6 coming back, I only count 6. Does that make sense? But if I have, a hawk going out and I have a pelican coming back, then I count those as different, I count those individually. If you're at McAlpine, which is a big loop that we usually do, then you count all of that. So that's really about 2.5, somewhere in that area. So that mileage is the whole mileage. You're only doing a little bit that's double. But try and keep that in mind, try not to double count whenever possible. Okay. I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you, Steve. With that. All righty. See you next week. Stay cool. Don't go watch some more birds. Like I said, I'm having a wonderful time with my butterfly bush because they're right there in front of me. All right.
Thanks, Judy.
See you later.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thank you, Judy. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Good night.
I gotta stop recording. Where's my recording? All right.